Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Sir Mel. And we are happy that it's already almost 5 o'clock, but we still have more than 400 participants in our webinar today. And I'm glad to see again our colleagues from Portswood Academy and from Oflu and Susan. We were able to launch again the third run of the conference. So I've been part of this since the first one that we did. So uh, I hope that the next one will be soon will be a bit of face to face, or maybe a hybrid one with some face to face and some attending virtually with us. So let me share my screen first and run my presentation. Okay.
Habang nakatigil ang mundo, habang ligtas tayo sa ating mga tahanan, may mga pumiling manatili sa harap ng tigmaan. Laban sa COVID-19. Para sa inyong patuloy na nagpapatakbo sa makina ng bansa. Para sa inyong laging nakaabang sa ating mga daungan at paliparan. Para sa inyong nagtatawid ng aming mga pangangailangan sa kalsada, karagatan at himpapawid. Para sa inyong mga nagbabantay sa mga warehouse at terminal. Para sa inyong mga nakikipagsapalaran sa daan. Para sa inyong naghahatid sa amin ng malasakit at kabayanihan. Kayong mga frontliners sa logistics at supply chain, kakibat kayo ng mga doktor, nurse, sundalo at pulis. Patid namin ang mga sakripisyo ninyo at pagtitiis. Kasama ang buong sambayanan, kaming lahat ay nagbibigay pugay at taos-pusong nagpapasalamat sa pagharap ninyo sa tiyak na pahamak para sa bayan. Mabuhay kayo, mga bayani ng bayan.
Okay. So I hope you were able to watch that short video presentation that was created last year. And we launched that on May 1 of last year. So several months after we had the lockdown in March. So for our friends from abroad, we're sorry, but the narration is in Filipino. But basically, this is a tribute that the DTI, together with those the sectors in the industry, we put these things together last year, and it came out May 1 of 2020, summarizing what the logistics sector did during the pandemic. Practically, those in logistics and supply chain is part of the frontline services, along with those in the medical profession and the other frontliners during the pandemic. We played a very crucial roles until now, because things or goods will not be moving without all of us here in logistics and supply chain. And basically, this is what we are doing. And as I mentioned, the the preparations that we did probably even during the pandemic helps also on how we could react and act quickly in addressing all these problems. So I was listening to the presentations made earlier by uh, Ms. Menese of PPA. So PPA is one among those agencies that work with the industry association. So there are interagency task force that were created also in line with logistics, as organized by DTI and participated by those engaged in the trade flows. And we are happy that the agencies are acting very fast to the clamor also of those in the private sectors, especially those who are providing the logistics services. So I'm tasked to talk about the opportunities in a digitalized supply chain and logistics management, especially for our entrepreneurs. And our students here will be our future leaders and entrepreneurs in logistics and supply chains. So there's still a big opportunity and market for us. So while we are starting, so I was happy to see that we have participants also from Mindanao region, Davao and General Santos, as I understand they are here. And we did several talks also in Mindanao. We see the big potential in Mindanao, especially with regards to logistics and supply chain, along with the other regions in the country. But towards the end of my presentation, I'll talk a little bit about careers opportunities as well with regards to logistics and supply chain in the Philippines, because this is one of our advocacy, primarily in the Academy of Developmental Logistics. So our mantra in the Academy is to enrich lives of the Filipino through logistics education. So we hope that we would be able to help the Philippine economy and the Filipino people in general in enriching their lives by understanding and knowing more about logistics and supply chain. So the Philippines is for us a logistics professional, we call this a logistics nightmare or maybe a logistics challenge, because we are an archipelago and we experienced this during the pandemic, because the only way you could bring in or out goods to and from the Philippines is by air shipment or by sea shipment. So uh, we are connected through the different continents of the world by sea lanes and air air lanes, but we are somehow able to survive, and we are expanding. Prior to the pandemic, there are a lot of trade routes that have been opened to us, so we resumed the direct flights to the United States. We're adding more flights to Europe, as well as the sea routes through the modernization efforts of the government, also with more airports, international airports and seaports being built around the country. And with regards to the global value chain, so we all understand that what we are consuming, if we are consumers, are actually a combination of different inputs coming not only from just one country, but a combination of inputs or value added to the product coming from the different parts of the world. So when you are buying something, sometimes it's very much confusing to distinguish whether this one is where this one is being produced or assembled, because this is a combination of different assembly points and value added services. And of course, trade, especially in the cross border arena, is influenced by liberalization of trade, by the continuous privatization of most of the services that have been long in the arms of the government. For example, PPA mentioned about the privatization of ports, so they develop the ports, but in terms of providing services, this is being handed out to private operators. We see that happening in most ports in the country. And of course, globalization sets in when we sign up for membership with the World Trade Organization, and we have to deal with a lot of commitments that we signed up in the international trade laws and policies. That's why we have to implement all of these things, and of course, facilitate trade based on our commitments. Now, looking back to what happened to trade due to the pandemic, of course, we saw the slump. We feel that during the first onset of the pandemic, but we're seeing uh, a rise or the revival of trade towards the end of 2020, and until now it's coming up slowly. And the projection is based on the World Trade Organization figure is by the end of the year, trade all around the globe will be coming back to its pre-pandemic stage. So um, we see movement of trade, especially when it's being beefed up because of the rise in the e-commerce business. We see that also, we experience that ourselves. So even if we are here in the comforts of our home and doing our respective work at home, so we can still continue trading, we can buy, we can sell in just matters of minute and complete the transactions. And all of these are supported by logistics and supply chain, because even if you complete the transaction online and digital, somebody somewhere has to pick up your goods and bring it to your doorstep. And the recovery of merchandise trade since the third quarter of 2020 has been in an even, with export and imports growing faster in some regions, including Asia. And you see the dark line here. This one represents Asia. And despite the pandemic, Asia trade in Asia is continue to be on uptick because we still supply to the rest of the world. So even our exports are still continuously moving up slowly, coming from the slump due to the pandemic. In fact, based on our observation, because we operate inside the export processing zone in PESA in Calamba. So most of the factories are actually open even during the pandemic, despite of the fact that there are schedules. Of course, they have to make adjustments with the work in manufacturing, because they have to limit the number of people coming in and out of the factories. We did the same thing in our facilities, in our warehouses. So we have to schedule the reporting time of our people. Some have to report on alternate days, so we have to reduce the exposure as well. And technology actually helped us make it through, because even some people have to report digitally or electronically. Although in some areas the connection is quite a bit challenge for us. So despite the fact that there are several providers already, but not all of them are really providing the speed that we need for our internet connection. Now, I just presented this one, just a summary of what are the tool sets that came out because of the Industry 4.0. And these are the things that we see already have been presented by several speakers in a lot of conferences as well, even prior to the pandemic. So we see how automation and robotics and 3D printing are affecting or maximizing the potentials in our factories in production, and the speed of communications and storage, and as well as the adoption taken by logistics and supply chain companies. So for example, in terms of managing inventories in the warehouses, so technology helps, because some were able to, some of those companies who may have the enough investments or financing to to buy into these automation tools. They have automated retrieval systems. They have robotics in their factories. They have inventory management system using available tools. Some have migrated from the RFID to QR scanners, and they can do planning effectively with the use of data and data analytics and AI tools. So most of these are automated. Even customer service are automated. So sometimes we connect to CS or customer service, and they deploy uh, chat bots already. So providing you answers depending on the type of questions that you have. So like when you're tracking your shipments, so you can automate actually tracking so that the information can be pushed to your mobile devices or to your emails. So you don't need to check it from time to time. So as soon as an update is available, it will be pushed to your end, and you will know exactly where your product is. So the same thing now that when we are buying online, you know already that it's being delivered to you today. If you're buying COD, so you have to prepare your cash to pay for it, because you will be alerted through your mobile phone. So that's the level of automation and digitization that is available already. And for those who are unbanked, the problem before is for us the reason why the number of COD deliveries, which is a challenge for us in logistics, is very high because most of us are unbanked. They don't have bank accounts, but with the rise of the digital payment platforms, so we have GCash, Paymaya, PisoNet, uh, uh, and all the other services that being provided to us through online banking. So even some banks are offering these services already. You don't need to go to the bank to open an account. So everything you have to do with your mobile devices already, and you can deposit check. So, for example, one bank that I know is that you can have the check with you, capture it, and upload it to the bank, and you don't need to go to the bank to deposit the checks. So this actually reduces the number of uh, face-to-face transactions that we have to do. But people are sometimes afraid. Are this digitization and automation uh, driving jobs away from people? Actually, it's not. So, for example, in the experience of the United States, when the automated machine, the ATM, were introduced, actually they have more tellers now. Why? Because they were able to expand the banking services. They were able to open more branches outside of the city. The same thing that is happening in the Philippines. So some banks are merging, but they are setting up more branches now. So it's adding uh, jobs as well, and they adding jobs more than the tailoring jobs now, because these are all automated. So the same thing is happening also in logistics and supply chain. So when we trade now, we are trading in a smarter planet. So everything is instrumented. As I mentioned, you just have to use one of the devices that you have. So several devices. For example, you have your mobile phone, you have your iPad, your laptops, and everything there with the apps that is available. You can do shopping, you can make payments because these are interconnected. You can book pickups and deliveries, and of course all these systems are intelligent now. They are capturing our data, and this is very helpful for us in logistics and supply chain. This data can be put into the database. This can be analyzed, and analytics tools would be able to help us make decisions, convert this data into actionable items, and help demand planners and logistics planners make decisions based on the available data and information. And just to share with you, if you would like to more about digitalization in the Philippine economy, so there's a World Bank report that came out last year. It's the Philippines Digital Economy Report of 2020. So I'm happy to be part of this study. We did a study on the state of logistics for small parcels in the Philippines. So that's chapter 4 of that comprehensive digital economy report for the Philippines. So this is downloadable in the World Bank website. So you just make a Google search Philippines Digital Economy Report 2020, and you will pick up a lot of information here. And if you would like to focus on logistics, especially for small parcel deliveries, so you can go to chapter 4 of the report. And when we talk about retail logistics, so I was listening to Dr. Cordova mentioning that he he was teaching retail to his students, and they're talking about the changes in the retail industry. In the conventional, will send in their products to the distribution centers, and distributors will deliver this to the stores. And of course, customers have to go to the stores physically to buy, or they can order later on and have it delivered to them. Go to the store, buy. If they cannot bring the goods out, they have to book for deliveries. And this changes a lot with the digitization in retail and supply chain because of e-commerce. So e-retailers, for example, have to all they have to do is put their products in the online platform. So some of the bigger stores actually put a combination. So they have now omni-channel. So they still maintain the brick and mortar store, but they also have their online presence where customers can visit and buy online. They're using social media platforms already selling their products, and through all this facility, they can do everything that is related to trade. So they can buy, they can pay, and they can book for shipping. So depending on the number of orders that you have, sometimes you will be provided with pre-deliveries, or you will have to make a choice which provider. Sometimes you are given a choice which service providers you prefer to use, and they have their own tariff for the services that they will provide to you. So, for example, now for our entrepreneurs, so they're using social media platform also in doing direct selling. Uh, so we see this in Facebook, for example, they're doing live selling, right? So sometimes I see this some of my friends doing live selling, and it brings me back to what I've been doing in the past. I was in sales, selling logistics in the past, and I have a friend who married a Korean. Uh, and one of the businesses that they put up in the Philippines is they are importing surplus merchandise from Korea. So because there are seasons in Korea, and during off season, so those that were not that were used in the past season, they can sell now to the Philippines. So these are good quality clothings that they're bringing to the Philippines. So what we are doing is we're doing change, especially during Christmas season. So we put up change stores in Green Hills, in Divisoria, in Alabang, and the back of my car, I have about 2 3 boxes of these products. So sometimes on weekends we have a folding bed at the back. So we open the folding bed, we go to a market, especially on Sunday, open the folding bed, put all the things there. So that's how hard we're doing sales. But now what people are doing, they just go live in Facebook and then wait for people to click and say mine. So that's how they are doing it. But of course, logistics is still there. Somebody have to do the deliveries for these products. So this follows the same process as I presented a while ago. But this is an opportunity actually now that is being brought by e-commerce. We see this coming. We saw this coming already in our neighborhood because of the e-commerce uh, growing. So what the big distribution centers are looking for are the mini hubs or micro warehouses. So they are looking for micro warehouses in city, in small municipalities, and even in barangays. So, for example, this is my observation. I saw, I know one guy in our community, and he delivers for one service provider, and all his deliveries are actually within our subdivision and the neighboring barangay. So sometimes he has a lot of deliveries to do. So what he is doing, he subcontract it to his neighbors doing deliveries for him. So in essence, he's employed as part of that service provider company, but is doing entrepreneurship already because he's doing a little bit of subcontracting already for deliveries and providing also at least sharing the income to his neighbors. So the investment opportunities in transportation and storage and in the whole logistics industry in the Philippines is promising. Based on the Philippine Statistics Report in 2020, it grew almost ninefold in 2020 for the transportation and storage sector. So there's a commitment of about 37.5 billion pesos uh, in transportation and its storage, and 37.5 billion also in manufacturing. And then there's manufacturing. Of course, manufacturing needs logistics and supply chain. And the BOI is prohibited through collaboration with the Cold Chain Association of the Philippines, and they came out with the Philippine Cold Chain Industry Roadmap covering 2021 up to 2023, and they see capacity growing by about 10 to 15% annually, and they expect revenue in this sector alone to reach 20 billion pesos by end of 2023. And in terms of investment as well, we see in the past, beginning several years back, how the top conglomerates in the Philippines have entered the logistics sector. SM or the Schumart group buys into Tugo. JG Summit, which owns the Robinsons group as well, diversifies into logistics, and they initially they made a 60 million venture with DHL. Metro Pacific Group, they set up their own Metro Pack movers, which is also in logistics, and they buy a minority stake in Air 21 in previous years. Then Ayala, of course, invests 1 billion in logistics business when they acquire Al Salora and Entrego. And this is in the news already, so I have the liberty to share this. Ayala buys a majority stake in Air 21. So this was announced last week. They bought 60% of Air 21 Holdings for 6 billion pesos. So the whole logistics business combined for Ayala and Air 21 will be a 10 billion company providing end-to-end logistics and supply chain. And this is a statistics coming from Statista. So this is the warehouse demand by industry based on the first quarter 2021 report. And you will see that the demand for warehousing is very high for e-commerce. So that comprise 48% of the total demand, with the third-party logistics provider uh, getting 90% of the share. So this is a big opportunity for the market. We saw this growing. For example, aside from I'm managing the Academy of Developmental Logistics, but I'm also managing a logistics company in Calamba inside the Pesa Zone, and we see um, warehousing demand growing, especially in the temperature controlled room requirements of several companies. We even have to do some expansions in our area, and we see the potential of it growing in the coming months with the recovery of the economy. And the Department of Trade and Industry is spearheading a study now. They call it the state of Philippine warehousing and logistics sector. So these are the key components of that study. And there's an ongoing survey inviting warehouse operators and warehouse owners to participate. So probably you could visit the DTI e-commerce Facebook page, and you can find the link to the study and participate with the warehousing and the storage study. Now, because of this technology, let me focus now on the career and people requirement. This technology means big changes to the existing supply chain roles. And based on several literature and recent study, the leading companies who are succeeding actually recognize this, and they have to put people first. And during the pandemic, it's an opportunity for all of us to prepare our workforce to meet the challenges ahead when we all go back to the new normal. Based on the Accenture recent survey, uh, I borrowed this from an Accenture study. Only 27% of supply chain leaders, based on their survey, agree that their function has all the talent needed. And this is still true in the Philippines. This is the sentiments also of the industry. For example, the reason why we set up the Academy of Developmental Logistics is for us to provide training in-house for the different companies under Air 21 and the Lino Group of companies. And later on, of course, we see the need to educate our stakeholders as well. That's why we set up the academy as a separate entity now. We used to be part of the holdings group, and we set it out as a separate company because we see the need to educate not only our people but also to educate stakeholders with the importance of logistics and supply chain. Now, 7 in 10 leading companies are building a talent pool. Of course, we have to uh, help our people adapt to technologies. We see this during the pandemic. People have to stay at home, use computers, but some of them are not too familiar with the applications that they are using. For example, when we ask drivers to use tools, not all of them are actually, especially the senior ones, they're not used to using GPS or probably the navigation tool. So this is part of training that have to be provided for them in using the different technologies that are being used now in logistics and supply chain. And 50% of supply chain executive, they are expecting to have new technology leadership role. And I myself, being in that leadership role now, so I see the need to identify these roles and also to develop a second layer of leaders that would be taking over our jobs in the coming years. So that's our role now as leaders, to develop our people to be the next leaders in our respective organization. So the question is, how do we drive talent to supply chain careers? Are they finding our job sexy? Are they finding it attractive? Because when we talk about supply chain, probably if you watch the video that I presented earlier, so you see truck drivers staying at the port, warehouse workers, warehouse operators. So can how can we make this attractive? How can we entice young people to go to this type of businesses or to this type of jobs that we are doing in logistics and supply chain? So I share again another study conducted by the Association of Supply Chain Managers. This is a 2021 report. And based on the study, and I understand this is true as well with us, 95% of supply chain professionals, they, they keeping their job until now during the pandemic. But they identify as well the areas that they need to address in upskilling people when it comes to addressing not only the pandemic but any other disruption that may come to us, hopefully not in the coming future. So digital supply chain and leadership and supply chain risk management. So these are the important areas that need to be addressed. And out of those surveyed, 48% of them are actually working at home. And then this, they mentioned earlier during the discussion about the importance of certification. And based on the study, certifications actually is very important because in terms of skills as well and in terms of compensation, that's an added value to the supply chain professionals. And these are the current compensation levels based on that study conducted. And then I tried to look what is it in the Philippines when it comes to compensation. So this one is available online. So I checked this. This is the average. The average supply chain manager salary in the Philippines, and this is a base figure only, is about 38,000. But they have summarized as well where they are being paid higher. So for example, I saw in this figure that they are paid higher in Calamba and in Lapu-Lapu City, primarily because these are industrial zone areas. So maybe the supply chain managers working in the X zones are receiving more than those in the other regions. And this is also a summary of how much the other professionals in the logistics and supply chain are getting paid in the Philippines, depending on the role that they are performing. So this is a guide only that you can look up to, so you can search this online. Now, in terms of addressing the gaps that we mentioned about on talent and skills of our workers in the industry. So TESDA, for example, last year they already approved the training regulations for several skills training for logistics. So we have existing one already for driving, driving NC2 and NC3. Also for forklift operators, we have heavy equipment operation forklift. And prior to the pandemic, we participated in the review of the driving NC2 training regulation because we have to make some updates, for example, in the use of driving simulators. So, for example, the Academy of Developmental Logistics, part of our initiative is to invest into technology, and we bought a driving simulator from United States, and now we're using it for training our drivers, and that will be included also in our training for drivers because we are now an accredited assessment center for driving by TESDA in Laguna, and we are expanding also our offering as we complete our TESDA accreditation in Laguna. And the recent training regulations that were approved is about warehousing services. So there are levels here from NC2 to NC3 and NC4. And then for those working in the freight forwarding and logistics industry, there's several levels also, 3, 2, 3, and 4 for multimodal transport operations and logistics, covering sea freight import. And there are more training regulations coming up. And also, we are happy to share that the Academy of Developmental Logistics is one of the validators for the development of the skills framework for supply chain and logistics. So the Philippine Skills Framework for Supply Chain and Logistics, it was launched this year. And this is a collaboration with the government and the industry. And it's patterned with the skills framework of Singapore. So we were assisted by the uh, Singapore government as well as by consultants from Singapore in coming up with this career map. So this skills framework is downloadable. So you can visit the DTI Logistics Observatory. Just type in DTI Logistics Observatory, and you can look for the Philippine Skills Framework for Supply Chain and Logistics. And this is divided into four major career groupings. So you have here warehouse management and operations, supply chain and logistics operations, freight forwarding and operations, and it also includes a career in IT logistics and supply chain. So it will start from bottom up until you reach the level of the C level. So you can download the file, and it will be very helpful not only for our uh, students and for those preparing their career for logistics and supply chain, but also for people in academia in designing your program. So we hope you will be guided here. So Philippine Trade and Training Center is still working with another consultant in the Philippines, providing more details, especially on the modules that will be used in training our people to as aligned to the skills framework. And as I mentioned, we're happy to be participating in this endeavor. And when I asked to comment on this, so this is my statement with regards to the Philippine Skills Framework. We are seeing the continuous and unprecedented growth of the logistics industry. There is an increasing demand for deeper and emerging skills than what we have traditionally learned. And as technologies and new ways of doing work are now the norms, the Philippine Skills Framework for Supply Chain and Logistics will help in promoting the industry as an exciting destination for long-term employability, attracting and retaining talents through a detailed and defined career development guide, assisting our HR and learning and development managers and professionals in the design of their human resource management and talent development plans. And on the other hand, our students and future workers may refer to the skills framework in identifying learning opportunities and plan their respective logistics career map. So with that, I end my presentation, and maraming salamat po. Back to you, RJ.
Thank you so much, Sir Samuel Bautista, for giving for enlightening us on the topic of capturing the opportunities of digitalized supply chain and logistics management for Filipino entrepreneurs. Sir, I think most of the questions that are coming in no are already answered on your presentation. So that's how comprehensive your presentation was. No, I just have to ask one question regarding the digitalization of supply chain and logistics management. I know that our participants today are tech savvy. No,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
those are their
yeah,
advantage.
yeah.
You know, what do you think would be our siguro can we leave a bit of an encouragement still to others, most especially our some other stakeholders who are also hesitant to use digital media in um uh, in in continuing no logistics and supply chain management, lalong lalo even in the time when digital media is still the best method that we can use in this time.
Okay. So um, to uh, to answer that question, RJ, so some are actually some might be some hesitation to do that. I remember yesterday I attended the meeting with some warehouse operators up north in Northern Luzon,
Mhm.
and the question sometimes is uh, how much would it cost them?
Yes,
Sometimes, yeah,
that's
but
an issue.
yeah, that's an issue. So
Mhm.
they're thinking about can they avail of it? Some question is who is financing this? Are we financing this? Are the government financing this? But if you're doing business and you really need to catch up, so I think that's one thing that you have to look into. What type of investment is available for you, and how can you invest? But because of the scale of utilization, I think technology now is becoming affordable for everyone uh, because of the scale that we have. For example, in the past, for you to be able to deploy an inventory management system for your company, it requires big investment because you have to buy your computers. You have to probably put up your own server, buy scanners, buy the software, and have people trained and have people do it for you. But with cloud technology and the technology that we have now, because we have what we call as SaaS, or software as a service. So you just need to subscribe to a particular service and pay subscription, and probably just have one or two people doing some of the roles assigned inside that system, and that makes it affordable for everyone. You don't even need to buy specialized scanners to do it, because your mobile phone can read QR codes, because the use of QR technology is making it affordable for everyone. So I think the advice that I could give is for people to keep on researching, learning, and benchmarking, especially with the industry leaders, and also don't be afraid to approach our government agencies that may have the that can provide answer for you. So we have the Department of Trade and Industry, we have PPA when it comes to port, and when it comes to regulation. So all of these are actually available online. So now it's very easy to do research, but be very careful when you do your research, because you might
Of course.
you might stumble upon false information, right?
Well, well, it is indeed always a collaborative effort that would count between the government and us who are parts of and stakeholders of the logistics and supply chain industry. Mr. Samuel Bautista, thank you very much for being with us on the fourth plenary session. May we call
Thank
in
you.
once again the Operations Manager of Global Professional Advancement, Ms. Susan Velasco, to award the Certificate of Appreciation.
So Ports World Academy Malaysia, in partnership with Global Professional Advancement, hereby give the Certificate of Appreciation to Sir Samuel C. Bautista in grateful acknowledgement of his unselfish sharing of time and expertise rendered during the third International Conference on Logistics and Supply Chain Management with the theme Career Advancement Pathways in Supply Chain Industry under the New Normal, Prospects and Challenges by a Virtual Conference. Given this 20th day of November at Quezon City, Metro Manila, Philippines. Signed, Jurai Raj Govindasamy, the Managing Director of Ports World Academy, and yours truly, the Operations Manager of Global Professional Advancement. Thank you very much, Sir Samuel.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, RJ.
Back
Thank
to
you
you,
so
Sir
much, Sir
Arjun.
Samuel. Thank you, Ma'am Susan. It was a very meaty discussion. I, for one, I'm taking notes actually on the digital side of logistics and supply chain management. But due to time constraints, now we will be leaving those who are leaving those questions at the question and answer box. Our resource speaker will get to you shortly.